Well, hello, model car fans. Welcome to the Muscle Car Modeler. My name is Revell, and this week we're going to sit here and really go through these kits here. Everybody's excited about the new 71 Olds 442 from Revell, the hardtop there, Sport Coupe. I've got my hands on a couple of them, and I've also bought all these over the years, and I've had this for a long time as well, and I'm a big fan of the Johan Oldsmobiles, and I had a number of them even before these came out. Had lots of plans for them. So, plans kind of have changed, and that's one of the reasons why some of these haven't been built, as I really love these cars and I love convertibles. So to me to have not had built some of these is kind of surprising. And also in my stash here, I've got a missing link 72 Cutlass hardtop here, which is the Cutlass Supreme body, not the 442's sport body. But he came out with that a number of years back, and I don't believe he's currently offering it. I'm going to check with him, and I'll get back to you in this video on that. But that's in the kit. And also looking at it briefly, I don't think that's going to work with the hardtop kit. But I'll get more into that in general here. But it's kind of funny that, if you're watching my channel, I'm a big Oldsmobile fan. I really love this car and this body style. I just finished number 5 of the Johan restorations. And that one's the most true to how Johan actually issued it. So if you've seen that, go check that out if you haven't. And then I had multiple ones. It's actually number 5 of finished ones. And on my channel also, I had done this one. This one is a Model Haas resin copy of a 72 convertible. Well, not really a resin copy because it was converted into a convertible. And they did a great job. And I had this a number of years ago. And I hadn't built it. It was one of the ones that kind of stalled. And then, of course, in 2009, that kit came out. And I had to have it. So I jumped on that kit. And I was all excited about building it. But for whatever reason, I didn't build that. And then 2010, just a year later, that version came out. I didn't buy that one right away. Wasn't too excited about that particular version. But it's got its merits. And then 2015, this one came out. Now, I bought that one brand new. Had to have that one because of some of the parts content, some of the things that changed. And I learned some stuff about that. So these are all a little bit different. There's some differences in there. And of course, love this car. So knew this one was coming out, had heard about it, had to have it. And then this is a 1980s issue. And I've had this a very long time. And it used to be you can find these pretty cheap, 25, 30 bucks at the swap meets, which back then was still, kind of high, $50, $60 kit, in comparison today, but they're just a lot harder to find and they've gotten a lot more expensive. But, I've had that a long time as well. And then these two actually came to me together in a bulk thing on eBay. I was just really fumbling through eBay, which I do all the time. And I saw that deal and I'm like, well, I knew about that. I didn't buy it when Kevin offered it the first time, and I went ahead and saw it was a decent deal with a buy it now price, so I jumped on it. But now I have all of these, and I've had that a few years now. So now I've got all of these to go through, so we'll continue on this video, and I'll start getting into what's in all of these kits and a little bit of differences in them. They're not many. They're all based on the same tooling, but there are some differences that might surprise you. So we'll continue on with this, and we'll move on. Well, we'll get started with this kit here. This is the 2009 issue, which was the very first release of this kit here, the 72 Hurst Oldsmobile. And there's some interesting things going on with this box art and some things with the kit. And like I said, it was issued in 2009. It depicts the Hurst Oldsmobile as it was released from Hurst. So, interestingly, the real cars, the Hursts, they were all Cutlasses. They were not 442s. And even though only about 200 of them were convertibles, I think it was 209, there was like 689 72 Hurst Olds made that year, and they're all considered pace cars, whether they have the lettering on them or not. But they all have this grille and a few other things, which is in this kit. So this is fairly accurate for what it's saying. What's interesting is on the box it says 442, which, you've got all the decals for the 442. And then talks a little bit about the car itself and on the side here. And they showed here too, they got the wing here. This is in the kit, but no convertibles ever got this wing. It's not a factory option. Although a lot of people did take the wing from the coupes and bolt them on convertibles, but I understand that did not come in the factory. But that's only if you guys really want to build a factory stock version, or if you care about accuracy, because there's some things in this kit, and things Revell has fixed over the different issues of it. But when this kit was first announced, I got very excited because I wanted to build this one. I mentioned the 442 convertible that I built. I had it at the time, and I was going to make the pace car convertible. And then this car was announced, and it was shortly after I had acquired that, but I hadn't built it yet. But let's get into the box here, and we'll get into the contents. So we'll put that off to the side here. We'll start with the chrome tree. I'll take this out of the bag as I'd open this stuff up. But yeah, here's the Cutlass Supreme grill, the rear bumper here with no provisions. So the bumper is pretty much the same 71, 72. Then you got the four wheels, of course, fan, license plates, mirrors. This thing, which at first I wasn't sure what that was, but it's the thermometer or thermometer that goes on the door. It's in the instructions. Got the hood pins, the shifter, door handles, carburetor, and fuel pump, inside rearview mirror, windshield frame, which I like the fact this is a separate part. But you got all these parts in there in the chrome tree, and we'll pull the body out next. Here's the body, which is a very nice body. All the convertibles have this body, but all the convertibles are of the Cutlass design with the quarter panel, which is the way Oldsmobile just made them. But it's a very, very nice body. And being 1/25th scale, it seems pretty accurate to me. Doesn't bother me at all. But that's real nice. And let's get into some of the other parts here. Here's where some of the fun stuff begins. All right, now we've got this tree. Here's the rear box control arms with the rear sway bar. So it's a W30 part, or any of the performance Oldsmobiles have that. Upper control arms. The rear springs with airbags in them, so it's kind of interesting that has that. The transmission cross member, the drive shaft, and then the two diff covers. Your normal 12 bolt, and then you got your Buick or the Oldsmobile W27 rear diff cover. That's pretty cool. Very rare, but mostly 70, the aluminum, and I understand that was in 71, but not so much 72, but it's on there. So there's those parts. And then here you got your front suspension, two rear axles. They look identical. I think one's just a little bit lower than the other, but not by much. So there's those, and you can put your covers on them. Now here's a fun part. Here's your firewall and your radiator support with the headlights, your steering gear and everything, radiator and fan shroud. But look at that battery. You see anything wrong with that battery? Well, if you know your batteries, that's a 10-volt battery. Should not be in there. So that's kind of a mistake. It was fixed. I'll let that out now. I've only seen it in this issue, and I got a kick out of it. But only in this issue. I'll show you in one of the other kits. They were fixed after this. But yeah, each cell is 2 volts, and there's only 5 caps. So that would technically be a 10-volt battery for you guys that don't really know, but that's okay. Then you've got your full exhaust system here. It's really nice stuff there. And then here's your engine parts. You got your intake, which is nice. That's fully separate because you can paint it aluminum, which a hearse would be an aluminum, or a W30 would be an aluminum intake, or you can paint it engine color blue. Your heads, valve covers. You got this air cleaner snorkel, which I believe is meant for this section. That's the W25 Ram Air. There's their stock one, your exhaust manifolds. It's all really nice stuff right here. You've got your 2 transmissions, automatic and manual tranny. Then your trans pan, oil pan, and your engine block. Now, interestingly, I think it's cool. It's got the manual 4-speed. and that Revell gives you both options. But technically, all the Hurst Oldsmobiles, they're all automatics. I don't know if anybody really knew that. For whatever reason, all the Hurst versions were automatics. Don't really know why. They had their Hurst dual gate shifters, but they were automatics. I understand there was supposedly a few 68 4-speeds that were made, but they're super rare. But after that, they're all pretty much automatics. Thought that was interesting reading about that. Then you got this tree. I'm kind of going over them in detail because in most of the kits, all these parts are the same. It's your coil, distributor, alternator, power steering pump, master cylinder, wiper motor, oil filter, starter. Got all of that here. Hoses, brackets, which I believe that's the oil fill. Then you got your AC compressor with bracket, brake booster, AC hose, your belts here, fan, all really nice stuff there. Then you've got your chassis plate here, which is really nice, nicely detailed. You can trim that up and make it look really good. Got some lettering here, which I really don't like. I'll sand that off and I'll sand in here. But at least they're accessible in the areas they put them. Now I'll move on to this batch here. Here's your 72 bucket seats, which these are very nice and they look very accurate there. You've got your 72 interior chassis plate, which this is convertible, and the boot well here made for convertible. So when I get into the 71, this is a little bit different, but all the convertibles have this. Here's your dash, your steering wheel, steering column, your set of automatic pedals and your set of manual pedals, and your consoles for each and every one. Now, the 4-speed one, very cool, very nice. The automatic one, if you can see right here, it does have all the details for the dual gauge shifter, which I believe is an option in the regular 442, but all of the Hurst olds got the dual gauge shifters, or some people call them his and Hurst shifters, but they're dual gauge shifters. Really cool. It's a really nice dash. So it's got some nice details with that. Here's the wheel backs for the stock wheels and your insert there that goes between the grills. That is not part of the hood. It should stay in between the grills, which is correct for the real car. Johan had that wrong, but not a big deal. But that's for 71 and 72. 70 was on the hood and 69 was on the hood. But for 71 and 72 is a separate part. Here's your convertible boot, mirrors, and the rear spoiler parts, and the sun visors here. And we got this tree here with the door panels, which have power windows, and the convertible boots, hinges, and then, of course, the W25 hood. And no other hood here. That's the way this was first issued, but you can tell it was there. So when we get to the other stuff, here's your bag of tires and the pins. Not many people like those pins. It's also got 2 metal exhaust tips. So make a note of that, because the early kits have them, the later kits do not. So you got your metal exhaust tips, which is a nice touch. And then we've got your clear tree and your taillights. Now this one only has the windshield, the headlights, and the turn signals for the front bumper. So that's all that's on the clear tree on this one. And then of course the 72 taillights. So there's the 72 taillights. So put those away. And then last, and then I'll do like comparison of the decals here, because the decals are all a little bit different. But there you go. There's the first issue's decals, and it's got all of the gold laser stripes. Really nice. All of the interior ones and the side stripes in white only. But no lettering, no pace car lettering on it. So that's one thing that this sheet was lacking. And I had a little bit of a issue with that, but not really too much, because I did have the Fred Cady sheet here from when I wanted to do the resin one as the pace car convertible. So I've had this sheet a very long time, but hadn't used it. But I had it for this purpose for this one. But I'll do a roundup or sum up on all of the decals on these kits. So that pretty much covers this one, and we'll move on to the next one. Now moving on, 1 year later at Revell, they released this version here, the 72 Cutlass Supreme Custom. So this is the not the 442, it's the Supreme. And it's pretty much the same kit. It was issued in 2010, and just talks a little bit more about it. And then the box art shows you what's going on here. And you see the stock Cutlass here with the flat hood, the stock wheels. This has an up top, and then here's the custom version with the wing and the interior, and you can see the stock air cleaner right there. And of course, we'll get into the contents of this one. So we'll show you what's going on in here. This one I'm going to go a little bit faster because it's pretty much the same. Like right here. Here's the same 72 taillights, the chrome tree or clear tree windshield, but it has the rear window. The 2009 kit did not have the rear window or the up top. This one actually has the rear window in it. The chrome tree is pretty much exactly the same, other than the addition of the big wheels here. And these are only in this particular version. I haven't seen these come back in any of the kits. But all the rest of these parts are all exactly the same. Nothing on this has changed. Now we'll get into, there's the body, which the body exactly the same. There are no changes to the body here. So no real reason to get that out. Here you've got the big tires and also the little tires, the stock ones, and pins and the chrome or metal exhaust tips, as I mentioned before. 2 tips and then 4 pins for the tires. So those are all in there. And then we get into the meat of the stuff. Of course, I mentioned this right away. This one has the 12-volt battery, so they fixed that right away. So, but everything else on this is exactly the same. No changes there. This tree has no changes. This tree has no changes. So I mentioned the dual gate shifter is there, but there's no changes on this tree. So that's all the same. This one's the same. Same lowered suspension. So those parts are in both kits. Both trannies, all of those parts. All these parts are exactly the same. Here's the exhaust, no changes there. Then there's the chassis plate, no changes there. So all of those parts are the same. We'll move them out of the way. This bag's pretty much the same kind of stuff, except for here is the stock flat hood. And then the scooped hood is not here, hinges. Same door panels. So now you know where that hood goes, and this one's blocked off on this one. So there's one of the few parts that's different. Chassis plate is exactly the same. Same bucket seats here. This one's a little bit different, but not by much. Here's your stock stuff and the stock wheels. But here's the big wheel backs that were added. And then the adapters needed to mount them for the pins and stuff. So those are added. So there's some new parts. And then this tree as well. All of this is exactly the same, except for here's the up top, which was for whatever reason blocked off, and the other one you got a big empty square. So obviously it was in the plans, but for whatever reason that particular version did not get the up top. So it's here now in this one. And then on this one, you know, here's the instructions, and they show you the up top and those things. And I kind of mentioned it earlier, the thing that looks like a tack, they show it right here, the thermometer, but it's in all the instructions, and the stock air cleaner that's used in this version. It's in this kit. It's actually in both kits, but it's in this version. And last on this, here's the decal sheet. So here you've got some Cutlass stripes, also in white, the 442 stripes in white. No 442 badges here. Cutlass Supreme badges are on this one, with some white walls and some other decals, and some nice gauges and stuff. But and then the Oldsmobile air cleaner decal, the marker lights. So there's some other really nice decals that are on this sheet that don't really appear on other sheet, but I'll get more into the decals and the different versions in a little bit. So we'll continue on, but that's all that's really different with this one. It's pretty much all the stock parts, but other than the added big wheels and tires, the convertible up top right here. So the convertible up top and the different hood. That's really just a few of the parts that are different in this version. But we'll move on to the next version that came out just a few years later. Well, here is the next release from Revell of the 72 Oldsmobile. Now this one is the actual Indianapolis 500 pace car, and it has the Linda Vaughn figure in it. But this one, for whatever reason, it's really expensive now. People are asking a lot of money for this particular version. I can kind of see why. The big thing is she's in it. I get that. But besides that, I also think this is the best version of this kit for the convertibles. And there's a few reasons why. It pretty much has everything from the other two versions all in one box. So while it doesn't really tell you that from here, the only hint is they show you the 442 convertible here versus the Hurst Olds version here, and all of that. We'll get into this one and I'll show you what's going on in here. Now first up is of course this chrome tree. Now it's pretty much exactly the same from here on over, but now you've got the 442 front grille besides the Cutlass Supreme grille. Now the Hurst, as I mentioned, convertibles, they use this because they were Supremes, but our true 442 has these grills. So there's the 442 grill, the first appearance of it. And the big wheels are actually missing, which I'm fine with that. So that's about the only parts that aren't in here are the big wheels in chrome and the tires themselves. Now, right here though, see these? Those are the exhaust tips. They're no longer metal, they're plastic. So you don't get metal ones in this kit, you only get the plastic ones. So there's one other change. And in my opinion, that's about the only drawback to this particular version, is it doesn't have the metal ones. Here's the figure. We'll get her out here and show her, because she's in there, but a little disappointing in my opinion. My example isn't the greatest. I understand all of these are hand painted, but I got some red running down, and just the way she's done, pretty decent. I'm not very good at painting figures, so I can't really knock it, but it just face looks a little creepy to me on my particular example. But hands don't appear to be broken or anything, which is good, because I've had others where the figurines are just broken. Now when it comes to the rest of it, here is your clear parts, rear window, front window, so it's all in there. That's all the same, so no variations there. This one's packed a little bit better. They packed the body, interior tub, and the chassis and exhaust pipes in one bag, so it's packed a little better, but all those parts are exactly the same. All these parts are exactly the same too, so there's nothing new here. Everything's there. And then here you've got the same seats, consoles, dash, all of that stuff. That's all in there. And this bag, which I really didn't open, you're actually getting both hoods. I don't know how many people realize that this flat hood, which is becoming somewhat desirable, is also in this kit. So you got both hoods in this kit. You've got the big wheel backs as well. They're in there. And all the convertible parts, spoiler, mirrors. So all of these parts are in there. So everything on all the kits there. Then you've got the tires again, just the 4 pins. And then last is the nice instructions and the decals. But these decals, you get the official pace car decals, Festival, HO, and a lot of the rest of them. And they're a bit more yellow than gold, but you got the Hurst emblem here also on that stripe. So some very nice decals, and the 442 and W30. So this one's got a very comprehensive decal sheet with just about everything on it that you would need. So that's another thing that this particular version has, is all of that stuff. So we'll move on to the next one here. Now moving on to this one. This is the newest release, of course. Just came out, and a lot of stores don't have it yet. I understand Hobby Lobby's got labels on their shelves. Some people have seen it, some people haven't. I ordered mine through Mega Hobby. That's how I got mine, and got an email saying that they were available. I would have pre-ordered it, but they weren't really allowing that. But that's how they decided to do it this time. But I bought 2 of these because I had some ideas, and one of my issues, I wanted to kit bash one with a convertible and make a convertible out of it. but this is the newest 2022 issue, of course. And I know many of you have seen the box art, and beautiful car here, and some really nice pictures of under the chassis and everything. And whoever did the box art did a really nice job. And you can see everything there. And so there's some hints in the box here, but let's get into it, and I'll start showing you what's in here and what's different and what's the same. So there's a lot of things going on here. Of course, the body is the hardtop body, the sport coupe body here with the flares and everything. And I'm going to leave this out here because I'm going to compare bodies at towards the end here in a little bonus section. But beautiful body, and they did a really nice job in it, I think. I don't see anything really wrong with it. I don't have crushed A-pillars. Both of my kits are fine. There's a lot of people saying that they got some kits where they were crushed because they were packed in tight. I must have gotten lucky, but it's just early reports coming out from other guys too. So thankfully mine are fine, so I'm happy with that. But I'll be leaving that out for a little bit. And we'll get into the chrome tree here, which it's really the same, all of the same parts here as a convertible, all the same parts here. The exhaust tips that are no longer metal, and the 442 grill, but the Supreme grill is gone. That's, you know, not here at all. So they're not giving you that, so you can't make the Supreme from this particular version, which I don't believe was available in that body. It was a little different. Here's another tree that is pretty much different. Here's all the clear. There's the 71 taillights, which are molded in clear. Would have preferred red, but you know, I tend to paint them anyway. New rear window, probably the new front window, headlights, and then the marker lights right here. They're a little bit different. They're got some ribs in them that the 72s don't have. But you know, I think the real cars, they were just a little bit different also, but I'm not 100% sure on that. Didn't really look too deeply into that one, but I noticed in the kit they were different. Most of this is all the same. There's the hood, no changes there. This tree, there's no changes on that tree. No changes on this tree. Same rear axles and suspension, none of that's changed. So none of these parts here have changed. So I'm just kind of going through them quickly. And here's where your exhaust tips actually mount. I didn't mention in the other ones for the bumper where you get metal ones, and then this one you get plastic ones. This chassis plate is exactly the same. I was expecting maybe a few differences here, but nothing that I see looking it over. So, and I don't really see any reason to make that different. It's got the same tires, although they packed them inside the bag with the body. Would prefer they didn't do that. This is a little bit different here. This is the chassis plate, but first thing I noticed is it's got the 71 seat pattern in it, so a little bit different seat pattern than the 72s. The package tray is completely different, much longer. Of course, being a convertible versus the sport coupe, I can kind of understand that. So that is completely different. Another nice little touch here. This tree is all new. It's got the 71 bucket seats here. That's pretty nice. There's door panels. They've got the 71 pattern on them and everything, but they've got manual windows where the convertibles have power windows. So you can see the shape here is completely different for the sport coupe body, and then here. And I also noticed that this, because I was thinking about the convertible thing, this seat is wider. So I'd have to do some modifications for the door panels and this and the convertible to get them going. But I don't think it's going to be too difficult, but that's the biggest challenge I wasn't expecting. And here you've got this same exact tree with the big wheel backs that are not needed, and all of these parts are the same. No need for those to be any different. Here's this same tree with the 12-volt battery. This is in here. No, the wing is now, you know, a factory part. So the wing, not sure if these sun visors are actually needed in the coupe version. They may or may not be, but you know, they're there. You don't need the convertible boot here, but you need the mirrors. So I can kind of see they didn't block this off, but they still needed the mirrors. And of course the convertible up top is not here. And then here's all the dash stuff. This is unchanged, dual gauge shifter and all of the parts here. So none of this has changed. Now the decals are a bit different. So we got the instructions in the decals, and I'm liking these decals. They're pretty comprehensive. Got a lot of the stuff here. The 442 emblems here, and stripes for right across the trunk, and 2 sets of white and black, which are kind of nice. And then, a bunch of the other wood grain decals and everything for the 71 and cut out. So these are pretty nice. I got the white oval Firestone for the tires and some pretty cool stuff. But and this is the US version. I've got pictures of the Revell of Germany version, which has a few more decals in it. Some things I noticed that this one doesn't have, that one has: oil filter decals, some other engine decals. It has a shift pattern on the shifter. I noticed there are no marker lights on this decal sheet, but there are in the convertibles. But the Revell of Germany has those, and it's also got seat belts. I don't really like to use the seatbelt ones myself. I tend to skip out on them half the time. So, but a lot of cool stuff on this decal sheet. But we'll compare all the decal sheets, and I got a little bonus section to go on where I'll get more into. We'll look at the bodies, and I'll show you the Johan 7442 kit, what's in there, and we'll compare them because they're all 1/25th scale. So stay tuned. We'll get into the bonus section of this video. Well, here we are. We have made it to the bonus round where I pull out my last unbuilt Johan Oldsmobile 442 here. Of course, this is a 70, and this is a 80s release, USA Oldies. Had a number of these. You saw my build-ups. Got plenty of them back there. But like this one, here's the box art for those who haven't seen it. It's kind of funny. They got the 69 pictured right here. I always thought that was funny. Red line tires, but you don't get them. Custom front, custom parts there, the engine. Of course, the rest of the box here. And this is an unbuilt kit, but not really a mint kit. Had it a while, bought it at a decent price. Couldn't remember what I paid for it, as it's been 10, 15 years, but haven't built it, as I built many of them. But here's the body. Of course, we'll go a little bit more over this in a little bit, but this is a 70 body, but my 71 just has Oldsmobile across the trunk here, and it doesn't have this emblem here. But other than that, it's pretty much the same dimensions and everything. But we'll get some of this stuff here. Of course, the chassis plate, the typical Johan, and the interior tub here, which I think this is like 71, 72, but it's been what they give you for the longest time. And not the greatest detail, but it is what it is. The standard hood here that comes in the kit. The glass, your typical stuff, and then here's those tires, not red lines, white lines, but and then the chrome tree with your Magnum 500 wheels, which really shouldn't have their custom valve covers, and some of the other parts here. And then these grills, as I've used this as custom. They're for the custom grills, but I've used them and cut them down and made them the inserts to use on my Rally 350. So I just fitted them to the stock bumper. Here's the stock 442 bumper, but I cut them down, fit them into here, and painted them black, and they came out pretty nice. So those of you who've noticed that kit, there's the rear bumper. But this is the Rally 350, and that's how those grills came out. So those of you guys are wondering how I did that, that's what I did and what I used. It was in the kit. So moving on, I got some more stuff. Of course, gotta have this. This is the Model House resin conversion. Comes with the W30 air cleaner, the hood, the super stock wheels right here. Those are really nice. And then of course, the wing as well, very thin. But this is the old Model House kit. Had it a long time, of course, and many of them, as I've it's a mainstay. But it's got this air cleaner, which is nice. But now you got all that stuff in the Revell kit. But I planned to use this on this a long time ago, just haven't gotten to it. And all the rest of the loose parts in there that you're familiar with. The manual tranny, valve covers, the bell housing, separate bell housing. I always loved this block. It's got the valley pan in there, the lifters, and all the inside of the block there, and then kind of have the pistons, but not really. But then you get the hole in it for the axle. So I always got a kick out of that. Oil pan, and then all the rest of the parts here that are, you know, typical of Johan quality, plus the custom rear bumper and taillights, stock taillights. And then the front, here's that custom front bumper, of course. So I'm just kind of going through this quickly. But this one's got a nice 12-volt battery, of course. Got to have some fun with that. And then really nice steering wheel. But, you know, I pretty much, all the stuff that I built using, you know, when I restored the 71, that's all pretty much in here. And then the directions, of course. But we'll use this for some comparison of the bodies, because they are all 1/25th scale. So throw most of this stuff back in the box here. So I'm going to leave the body out and we'll get into that. And then also, I kind of showed it before. Here's Missing Link's 72 Cutlass Supreme body. Now, Kevin, he doesn't currently make this. It's something he produced a number of years ago. He has said that he plans to redo the molds and produce this again. I was talking to him about it. And we'll briefly go over some of that stuff. But he's got a really nice body. Has the Cutlass emblems here. The Oldsmobile across the trunk, the roof line for the Supreme there, which has this quarter panel and not the other quarter panel. And this is really nice, and it's really rigid and looks like plastic, but it's a resin. Of course, his kit also comes with a back seat with the windage tray. This is the 72 pattern back seat. This was designed for the 72 convertibles when those are out. Wasn't meant for the 71 as it came out. And here is his door panels, right here. Modified all right here, but most of that is the Revell stuff. So you can check that stuff out. And then also vacuum formed windshield and rear window for the kit. And that's what you need to complete it. Without further ado, I'll get the other bodies here, which I was kind of just mocking up and throwing together. But of course, there's the fastback body here, the Sport Coupe, as it's called, and you know, the interior tub and what. I just kind of was throwing it together just to see how some of this stuff fit, and I did the same thing with the convertible. But when you see these and you compare it to the Johan, they're pretty much the same size. If I can get them side by side and in the camera view here, really should just do these two so you can see that they're really proportionate here as far as how they're shaped and length and everything. And even you butt them up this way, a pretty good idea. They're pretty much the same size and same scale and everything. As far as the roofs go. And then here's something that's kind of interesting I was just playing around with right here. The hoods. Of course, the convertibles flat hood, that's gonna, you know, fit the Revell kit no problem. But this hood actually is almost a real nice fit. Just a little bit of sanding to get it to fit. Even the curvature right here fits really nicely. So it's surprising how well this hood is actually fitting this body. But I don't see any reason why anybody would actually buy a Johan kit to kit bash with the Revell kit, in my opinion. But we got the convertible, you know, all of these are really, really nice. And then if you take these two, of course, and you can see the Supreme body versus the Sport Coupe body there. So there's those. But the biggest thing here is the door panels. So I get some of this stuff out of the way. All right. Now, the interiors. Now, I want to do a 71 convertible. So the seats are completely different. And they're actually, if you look at them, actually I put this one, you can see how much more narrow, if I butt one side up, how much difference in width there is between the coupe and convertible and, of course, the package trays. So those are completely different. So I'd have to really, you know, adapt this to this seat back, and then the patterns are narrow the seat or work the armrest to work within the seat here, which I think if I tackle that project, that's what I'm going to do. But other than that, I really don't see much difference there. And then the door panels, I mentioned that the 71 had manual windows and the 72 has power windows, and you can see the door panel differences there. But you can really see the difference in the two roof lines there and the windows, how they're shaped. So I'd have to adapt all of this to this, and it really doesn't look that difficult. It can be done, but it's a bit more of a challenge than I was expecting, but that's okay. It can be done. Kevin and I were talking about what it would take to put a 71 interior in that, to get it to fit the 71 kit. Because the bodies, I don't see any issue with that fitting, but the windows are completely different, and I could see some of that being an issue. So we'll get some of this stuff out of the way. Okay, the last thing I wanted to go over was the decals. So we'll get some of these up in the light here. And I'll start with the two Hurst versions. Here's the original Hurst version, which I really like. And I kind of like they're a bit more gold, which I like that with these. And then the HO emblem that goes on the stripe is off to the side here on one of the things. Where's it at? I know it's on here, right there. So it's on there and it's on the stripe. Whereas this set, it's actually attached right to the stripe. You can't really move it. But these ones are a bit more yellow. And don't really know if I like that particular, even though those are gold, but they've got the official pace car on them. So there's really not much different on that. It's kind of funny. These ones actually have the trunk stripes. But only the pace cars actually had the trunk stripes, even the 70 trunk stripes. All the rest of the Oldsmobile 442s, they had the hood stripes only, but nothing on the trunk. Which, if you're going for a factory correct, that's how it was. The trunk stripes, I like them. They're pretty cool. I like the wing on the trunk, but technically they're not factory stock. But there's those two sheets for comparison. And then the Fred Cady sheet that I showed you earlier. But these ones, the stripes are kind of funny because the pinstripe goes all the way around. But these are really nice gold, but they have their accuracy issues as well. They got the HO for the side, but they, got these little HOs and W30s and some things, out of scale. But there was a time when this was your only option, and it was great, but the factory decals are much better. Then here's the set from the custom Cutlass convertible, which has this fade here, and then the white stripes here, and all this 442 type stripes on it, and all the Cutlass emblems, really nice. So it's a nice set of decals. And then the last set right here is the W30 set, which these ones have black. All of these have white 442 stripes. I'm glad this one actually has black and white, which is nice, and only has the hood ones, which is correct. And then the pinstripe that goes on the trunk, that is correct. It is missing a few other things compared to the Revell of Germany decal sheet. There's been a number of people that talked about, they're much better decals. I like these, but I'll agree there's much more on that Revell of Germany sheet. So I'll throw that picture up here. This picture is courtesy of William Scott. I call him Scotty. And, he provided this picture for me since he had that particular kit. So this is up there, and it's got some interesting directions too as far as that, and paint in that particular kit. I don't have that kit here in front of me, but we'll move on, and I'll continue on here. But I think I covered a lot of stuff in this video, more than I was actually planning to, but that's okay. It's all part of the course here and everything. But I got to get some of these built, and I love this particular car, and I just haven't built all the versions of it. I can't build them as fast as I want to, but I can sure buy them fast enough. But that's how it goes. And, my collection gets a little bigger, and don't really plan on it that way. But I'm not the only one who does that. Talk to many modelers that do the same thing. So we'll finish this one up. So thank you for tuning in and subscribing and all your comments. I really do appreciate it. And you guys, you have a wonderful weekend. And I hope this was entertaining for you. And we'll see you next Saturday.